from the Nationwide News Network. Comprehensive, incisive, tough. This is Nationwide at 5.
Good afternoon, I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
In Nationwide News at this hour, Independent Fiscal Commission defends decision to share important report with the public before it was tabled in Parliament.
Murders have moved past the 100 mark this year.
17-year-old boy charged with murder for the killing of his Oterius high school mate.
Local government minister suggests JTA president is out of order for giving government ultimatum to remove shelteries from schools.
The president and the JTA own no schools in this country, and they can't give the government an ultimatum to move persons who are homeless.
Legendary drummer Sly Dunbar remembered as a man whose talents burnish the reputation of reggae music.
In news from the rest of the world, Trinidad and Tobago's energy minister expects his country to benefit from instability in global natural gas market.
Iranians chant death to America and Israel as they herald the announcement of a new supreme leader.
In sports, J3As announces strong team for World Indoor Championships in Poland.
And later on our broadcast, in our cover story at 5:35, we'll hear from the Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, who hosted a hastily arranged press briefing to discuss, among other things, what the government knew about conditions of servitude, which led to the breakdown of the Cuban medical program.
In the nation's business at 6:25, Finance Minister Fayval Williams is set to open the budget debate on Tuesday. What are the experts listening for? We'll hear from Managing Director at Strategic Alignment Limited, Robert Winter, and Honorary Treasurer of the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, John Butler.
And at 7, it's the comments section with Shalois Michael and Mahiri Stewart. This evening, they're asking, what's your reaction to Jamaica discontinuing its medical partnership with Cuba? Give us your comments by logging on to our Facebook page, Nationwide News Network, and by tweeting us at Nationwide Radio, and message us on WhatsApp at 876-285-5693. You can also leave your comments on Instagram at Nationwide 90FM. All these and more as we take you home on air on your mobile, Nationwide 90FM, RevoNews.ai, and on the Revo News app. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. This Monday afternoon, it's Monday, March 9, 2026.
If it's news, it's got to be Nationwide 90 FM.
Now to the details. Jamaica's Independent Fiscal Commission, IFC, is rejecting claims that it inappropriately shared its recent report with the public ahead of it being tabled in the House of Representatives. The defense follows claims by Finance Minister Fayval Williams that the commission was out of line. In a statement on Monday, the commission cited enabling legislation which it says empowers it to publish information it deems important to the public. Dana Davey tells us more.
During Wednesday's sitting of Parliament's Standing Finance Committee, Opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson queried why the Independent Fiscal Commission's Economic and Fiscal Assessment Report, EFAR, had not been provided to parliamentarians ahead of time. Even more curious to Robinson was the publication of the said report by the media. Finance Minister Fayval Williams could also be heard in an off-microphone comment suggesting that the report should not have been made public before parliamentarians had sight of it.
I mean, and I'm not going to tell you I'm au fait on all the procedural matters, but an important document of that nature has to be brought here. I mean, while it may be in the public domain through other means, to my certain knowledge, the Commissioner would have sent it to Parliament, and the procedure that you may need to employ to ensure it is here, we need to do that. It shouldn't be that members rely on the media or other ways to find out what is in that report.
Well, the IFC shouldn't be out there in the media.
No, I'm not saying it should be in the media, but I've seen it.
But I'm saying the IFC should not have been in the media talking about it before it was laid in Parliament.
Deputy Speaker of the House, Heroy Clark, agreed that the document should have been first tabled in Parliament.
Member, it is unfortunate that you make mention of it being out there in John public domain before it is even tabled here. Understand the situation, so it is not Parliament's fault why it is out there and not yet before us. No, I'm not saying that he's blaming, but there's something has to be wrong if it is out there in the domain and not yet at Parliament to be tabled, because it has to be laid on the table of the House first.
I heard it.
Before it's supposed to be out there. So obviously there is something that is not right.
In responding to the concerns, Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams says the discussions revealed obvious unawareness and misunderstandings by some parliamentarians regarding the Commission's authority. Williams says the Independent Fiscal Commission Act 2021 clearly empowers the Commissioner to share any of his reports publicly through the Commission's website once the report has been submitted to Parliament. Williams says the latest EFAR was submitted to the Parliament on March 3 and subsequently published on the IFC's website on said date. For clarity, there's a distinction between a publication being submitted to Parliament and tabled in Parliament. The Commissioner says he remains dedicated to his mandate of providing an informed and independent opinion on the government's fiscal policies. He says the authority to publish these reports and engage the public unencumbered is a critical pillar of the Commission's independence and transparency. Dana Davey for Nationwide News.
Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie says President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, Mark Malaver, has no authority to give his ministry any ultimatum regarding the use of schools as shelters.
I wouldn't even waste the time a day to get involved in any controversy with the JTA president. The president and the JTA own no schools in this country, and they can't give the government an ultimatum to move persons who are homeless, who have experienced the devastation of disaster out of schools. So we are not working with any agenda set by the JTA, and we're not going to be bullied or forced into any position. I shouldn't be surprised by the tone and the tenor of the president.
Minister McKenzie was responding to comments made by Mr. Malaver during a speech at the JTA's post-Melissa National Thanksgiving service at Sharon Baptist Church in St. Elizabeth on Sunday. Malaver gave the local government ministry 3 weeks to move people displaced by Hurricane Melissa out of school properties. He says failure to act in the time stated will result in the JTA escalating its reaction. The JTA contends that housing shelterees and students at the same time poses safety risks and undermines public confidence in institutions. But Minister McKenzie told Nationwide News he's yet to receive any report of discord between shelterees and the schools accommodating them.
There has been no complaints from any of the schools. As a matter of fact, there seems to be a very cordial relationship based on the information that we are getting. And there's no evidence of any dislocation caused by persons within the schools. So I'm just wondering, what the agenda of the JTA president is all about.
Desmond McKenzie, Minister of Local Government.
The country's murder tally has surpassed the 100 mark. Still, the Jamaica Constabulary Force JCF says homicides are on the decline. According to the JCF's latest crime data, murders have declined by 28% so far this year when compared to the corresponding period in 2025. The JCF says 105 homicides were recorded between January 1 and March 7 this year. That's 41 fewer than the 146 murders recorded in the corresponding period last year. According to the JCF, the Kingston Central and St. Andrew North divisions have recorded no murders to date. But the St. James division leads the country's murder tally with 16. Within the review period, shootings declined by 37%. Rape is down by 4%, with break-ins down 15%, and robberies down by 13%.
The 17-year-old boy who was arrested in connection with the death of another student at Ocherius High School in St. Anne last Wednesday has been charged with murder. According to the police, the student was charged last Thursday. He's set to appear before the family court on Wednesday, March 18. Reports are that a day before the fateful incident, there was an alleged altercation between the 17-year-old student and 16-year-old Devani Shearer. Tensions were still high a day later, and in another altercation, Shearer was reportedly struck in the head with a metal chair. Shearer died while undergoing treatment at hospital. Reacting to the incident, President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, Mark Malaver, says a resort to violence cannot be the normal reaction to conflict.
Our prayers are not only with the family of the victim, but also with the young man who now stands accused. For every tragic act of violence has a genesis. Conflicts do not simply appear. They develop from unresolved anger, misunderstanding, broken communication, and circumstances that spiral beyond control. This tragedy must compel us not only to mourn, but to reflect deeply as a society. Too many of our young people today believe that disputes must be settled with violence. That must never become the culture of our schools or our communities.
Malaver says emotional intelligence and empathy should become part of the school curriculum.
Our classrooms, ladies and gentlemen, must remain spaces where children learn not only maths and literature, but also emotional intelligence, empathy, restraint, and respect for human life. If we are truly to transform Jamaica, we must teach our children that strength is not found in violence, but in wisdom and self-control.
Mark Malaver, president of the Jamaica Teachers Association. He was speaking at the JTA's post-Melissa National Thanksgiving service at Sharon Baptist Church in St. Elizabeth on Sunday.
And in news just in, Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton says the government is exploring alternative arrangements to address gaps caused by the potential withdrawal of Cuban health workers. The minister was speaking at a media briefing that's still underway as he responds to concerns raised about the termination of the Cuban medical program.
We have started and have begun to put alternative arrangements in place to deal with the gaps that exist. Today I went to Cabinet and Cabinet has signed off on a number of programs or initiatives that we will move quickly to implement to deal with those shortages. So I'm going to run quickly through the short, the medium, and the long term. Now, a number of these strategies were being pursued already, but given the current situation and given the anxieties and uncertainties, I think it's important for us to reiterate and to place in context how we will go about doing filling the gaps that may be created if the Cuban workers were to withdraw in full.
Over the weekend, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade provided details behind the failure of the Jamaican and Cuban governments to craft a new deal for the continuation of the program. The statement came amid criticism that under the Holness administration, Jamaica has effectively turned its back on the Cuban people. Since the termination by the government, Havana has since issued a directive that their personnel prepare to return home. Further concerns have been raised about the potential impact on the healthcare system. Dr. Tufton says one strategy is the redeployment of staff.
In the short term, the ministry will be working with the regional health authorities to activate what we call a contingency measure to maintain critical services. So that's our short-term surge plan, which includes revision of duty rosters, increased use of overtime and extended work hours. This happens routinely when we have a surge in cases. So if you have a spike in the flu season or in the dengue season, you have more demand on the system, then we implement a surge plan. So it's not a new thing. And given the possibility of fallout from Cubans who are working, Cuban healthcare workers in particular areas, we will trigger that plan, which we have a lot of experience in doing. And the regions have been asked so to do.
Dr. Christopher Tufton, Minister of Health and Wellness. You're listening to Nationwide News at 5. More news after these.
See twice the style for less at IQ Optical. Buy one pair of glasses and get your second and third pair half price. Don't miss out. Call 876-929-7732 or visit IQ Optical today, where clarity never looked sharper.
The time by IQ Optical is
5:14.
Termites, rodents, or birds infesting your home or office? Call Rentokil Initial, the pest expert, at 876-926-4236 for a free pest assessment island-wide. The temperature brought to you by Rentokil Initial is...
It's 28 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 27 in Montego Bay.
Every day, Rosie has a glass of fruit drink with breakfast, an energy drink on the way to work, a flavored water with lunch, and 2 glasses of soda with dinner, which adds up to more than 50 teaspoons of sugar a day. And all that extra sugar could bring on obesity. Are we drinking ourselves sick? 71% of Jamaicans support a tax on sugary drinks. Help tackle obesity and protect our children's future. A message from the Heart Foundation of Jamaica.
Continuing the news, a witness in the Klansman gang trial told the Supreme Court on Monday how he had to rush two men to hospital after returning to a house and finding them suffering from multiple gunshot wounds. The witness was giving evidence in relation to the murder of a man, William Christian, and the wounding with intent of another man on April 18, 2020. The attack took place at a house in Fairview Park, Spanish Town in St. Catherine. Robian Williams tells us more.
In his testimony, the witness said he had known the deceased man, William Christian, for about 2 to 3 years and described their relationship as being like that of a father and a son. On the morning of April 18, 2020, the witness told the court he was at Christian's home repairing his car. After working on the vehicle, he said Christian took him home and they spent some time having a drink with another man. The witness said he later borrowed Christian's car and left for about half an hour to purchase food from a shop. But when he returned to the property, he noticed something was wrong. According to his testimony, he first saw the other man emerging from the side of the house with blood on his foot. He then drove onto the driveway and saw Christian lying across the veranda with multiple gunshot wounds. The witness told the court, "I was shaking him and I said, 'Chris, talk to me.' The witness said he called out for help before placing the injured men into the vehicle. He then drove them both to the Spanish Town Hospital. He told the court that Christian was unresponsive at the time. The other injured man, whose foot was bleeding, was placed in a wheelchair at the hospital. The witness said he later left to pick up Christian's wife and brought her to the hospital. After she went inside, she returned crying and informed him that Christian had died. The court heard that the witness remained at the hospital until the police arrived and asked him to accompany them to the station. He said he gave a statement and was later taken into custody, spending about 3 days in lockup at the Linstead police station. According to his testimony, he was later questioned again in the presence of a lawyer before being released without being charged. During cross-examination, the defense asked the witness whether he knew if the injured man's son had any gang affiliation. The witness said he did not. Michael Wildman and Lamar Rowe are the defendants charged in relation to this incident, which forms part of the wider 32-count indictment against alleged gang leader Tesha Miller and 24 others. The trial continues on Tuesday morning when the prosecution is expected to call additional witnesses. Robian Williams for Nationwide News.
The daughter of reggae icon Sly Dunbar, Natasha Dunbar, is remembering her father as a supportive figure whose music will live on after his passing. She was delivering a tribute during his funeral service at the Holy Trinity Cathedral in St. Andrew on Saturday.
He supported me in many ways that I will carry forever. He was the kind of father who made you feel like you could do anything, simply because he was in your corner, and he always was, always. I will never forget the personal moments, the conversations, the laughter, the quiet encouragement, the way he could say so much without even saying much at all. And I think many of you know that. Sometimes it was just a look, sometimes it was simple his presence. But my father had a way of making you feel love deeply and truly.
The drummer, whose given name is Lowell Fillmore Dunbar, is regarded as one of the world's greatest percussionists. He achieved legendary status as part of the famed duo Sly and Robbie in partnership with the iconic bass guitarist Robbie Shakespeare. Sly Dunbar was a 2-time Grammy winner and 13-time Grammy nominee alongside his celebrated rhythm twin. He received the Order of Distinction in 2015. Natasha thanked her father for the love and guidance he gave her.
Today, it's hard for me to accept that he's no longer here, but I know this. My father's spirit cannot be silenced because his music will live on forever. In every song, in every memory, in every life he touched, in every beat that will continue long after today. Daddy, thank you. Thank you for loving me. Thank you for guiding me. Thank you for being my hero. And thank you for being my best friend.
Natasha Dunbar, daughter of Sly Dunbar.
World in a Minute is brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
The World in a Minute.
Rising global liquefied natural gas prices amid escalating tensions in the Middle East could boost export revenues for Trinidad and Tobago, even as the country faces constraints in increasing natural gas production. That's the view of TNT's Energy Minister, Dr. Rudal Moonilal. In an interview with the Sunday Express, Dr. Moonilal says the country's position as a net LNG exporter makes it structurally more resilient than import-dependent economies during periods of global supply uncertainty. He says unlike countries dependent on LNG cargoes from the Gulf region, Trinidad and Tobago is not directly exposed to physical disruptions involving major producers such as Qatar or shipping routes like the Strait of Hormuz. Dr. Moonilal says while the government remains cautious and mindful of the broader global implications of conflict, it's clear that stronger benchmark pricing enhances the value of cargo exported from TNT.
U.S. and Israeli warplanes launched new waves of strikes on targets across Iran on Monday as large crowds took to the streets in Tehran in a defiant show of support for Mojtaba Khamenei, the country's newly appointed supreme leader. The conflict, now in its second week, continues to escalate with fresh Iranian missile and drone attacks targeting Israel, U.S. bases across the Middle East, and energy infrastructure in the Gulf. The Guardian is reporting that in Lebanon, Israel pressed its offensive against Hezbollah with raids in the south and airstrikes in Beirut. An Iranian missile was shot down over Turkey, while drone strikes were reported in Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. The French President Emmanuel Macron says his country and its allies were preparing a defensive mission to the Gulf to protect oil supplies. Chanting death to America, death to Israel, and God is great, some waved Iranian flags as thousands gathered to offer allegiance to Iran's supreme leader hours after the appointment was formally announced. Others waved banners bearing the portrait of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the new leader's father, who was killed after 37 years in power by an Israeli airstrike in the first moments of the war.
World in a Minute was brought to you by ABC Electrical Sales. We make things as easy as ABC. Hose assembly and supply, equipping Jamaica for success.
And Charles O'Connor Consulting Network, COCN, driven by international accounting standards, modern technology and integrity.
Recapping the top stories making nationwide news at this hour, murders have moved past the 100 mark this year, but the JCF says homicides are down compared to this time in 2025.
17-year-old boy charged with murder for the killing of his Ocho Rios High schoolmate.
Independent Fiscal Commission defends decision to share important report with the public before it was tabled in Parliament.
Local government minister suggests JTA president is out of order for giving government ultimatum to remove shelteries from schools.
The president and the JTA own no schools in this country, and they can't give the government an ultimatum to move persons who are homeless.
That's local government minister Desmond McKenzie. I'm Roby Ann Williams.
And I'm Mahiri Stewart.
You can find the news on our website at revonews.ai, and on the Revo News, it's a news app rather. It's available on Google Play and the App Store. News next, the headlines at 6.
As a taxi man, every mickle make a muckle. I see him way, sir. BCIC Easy Pay stay.
Having 11 months to pay my car and home insurance, little by little, puts me at ease.
Exactly. With my type of business, I don't have to fret about pay a big money, yet I always covered.
Get as much as 11 months to pay your car and home insurance while enjoying 100% coverage with BCIC Easy Pay.
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Sports at 5 is brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
Hello, good afternoon, and welcome to Sports here on Nationwide 90 FM. I'm Wayne Walker. We start with the news on athletics because the Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association, J3A, has announced a strong aggregation for the 2026 World Indoor Athletics Championships in Koźle Pomoravskie in Poland on March 20 to 23. The women's list is 12, and it's headed by Janelle Smith, who is an informed sprinter at the minute, and it also includes Brianna Liston, who's been picked for her first national senior team. Now, here's a list for the women, the rest of the women's team. It has Megan Simmons, Onika Wilson, Nikisha Price, Kellyanne Beckford, Shauna K. Anderson, Atoya Gould-Toppin, Shanoya Douglas, Lamar Distin, Nia Robinson, and Shante Foreman. The World 100 meter silver medal winner, Tina Clayton, is named as a reserve. So that's a 12-strong women's delegation. Now for the men, 17 of them, and it includes a world and Olympic 100 meters silver medalist Kishane Thompson, Hakeem Blake, who won bronze at the World Indoors before, Brian Lavelle, who is a 200 meters world bronze medalist, Demario Price, Jerome Campbell, Delano Kennedy, Raheem Hales, Navaski Anderson, the national 800 meters champion, Rivaldo Marshall, Kemar Farquharson, formerly of Calabar, Tyrese Taylor, another 800 meter star, Demar Francis, Kerry McLeod, the long jump star, Tajay Gale also, and Jordan Scott, the national champion in the triple jump. There are 3 reserves: Jordan Turner, Vashon Vassiana, and Kadrian Golson out of Sprintec and GC Foster College. Now, Brian Smith will manage the team. Paul Francis, Michael Frater, and Kerry Lee Ricketts are the coaches. Jamaica won 4 medals, 2 silver and 2 bronze at the last World Indoor Championships in Nanjing, China in 2025, and that put them number 17 on the medal table. In the meantime, there are uncertainties surrounding the participation of Shanoya Douglas at the World Indoors. Douglas, who sped to a fantastic 11.06 seconds on Friday at the Carifta Trials at the National Stadium. It's a lifetime best for her. She's been named as part of the 4x400 meters, which you just saw just now for the World Indoors. However, her coach, Garth Smythe, he spoke with Nationwide Sports earlier today, that's on Monday, and he told us that she's unlikely to go to Poland. He said that they did give the J3's permission to name her to the squad for the World Indoors, but he did so without knowing that the proximity between the World Indoors and the Boys and Girls Championships was so close. In fact, the team is scheduled to be back on the island around about the 24th, 25th of March, which would be either the opening day of champs or the second day of championships. And he says against that background, they are planning to approach the J3As to express their concern about it, with the hope that she's withdrawn from the team and they get someone to replace her.
World Indoors wasn't in our plans any at all, but we are happy for the consideration that they consider her, and so it's kind of close with her traveling, returning, and then champs. No, well, initially I gave them the thumbs up, not recognizing the dates. I'm quite sure there's somebody there that they could make the substitution with.
Well, let's see how that one plays out. Racing United, they were leading Harbourview by 3-0 at sports time late into their game in the Ray and Nephew Jamaica Premier League. That game being played over at the Harbourview Mini Stadium. Giovanni Cunningham, he shot the St. Catherine-based racers in front after 28 minutes. But the prolific Tajay Grant, who plays for the national senior football team, he doubled the lead. He doubled the lead for Racing on minute 53. And just a short time ago, they got a third from Dean Andre Thomas. He got his goal in the 80th minute. A win for Racing would push them into second, 3 points behind leaders Montego Bay United. But that lead, that second place thing, that 3-point advantage could be stretched to 6 by Mobay United, because they play Waterhouse at 7:30 down the boulevard at the Jerusalem Mini Stadium. And finally, in sports at this time, let's give you a bit of news on cricket here. Players and staff of the West Indies senior men's team will have to wait just a few more hours, could we say, before they returned to the Caribbean from India, where they competed in the T20 World Cup, which was won by the host team on Sunday. The regional team, which has been stranded on the subcontinent from March 1 due to the crisis in Western Asia involving the US, Israel, and Iran, have been informed that they will now leave early on Tuesday morning. Both West Indies and South Africa, they're scheduled to leave on a charter flight on Tuesday, with the Proteas traveling to Johannesburg directly from where they are. I think it's Ahmedabad, and the West Indies will travel directly to Antigua from Kolkata. According to the report, the two sides were earlier expected to leave on Sunday, but confirmation of the new dates were given to them late last night, and it's the third time that the regional team's travel plans have been altered. They were initially scheduled to leave last Friday, but that date was then pushed back to Sunday. Now, three members of the South Africa squad, Kavish Maharaj, Jason Smith, and George Linde, along with the entire management team, were to leave India on Sunday and head directly to New Zealand, where South Africa will play 5 T20 internationals starting on March 15. So we'll keep you abreast of the situation with the West Indies delegation stranded over there in India. Let's see if they leave Kolkata on Tuesday morning, as they were told. We've got to leave you now for sports. We'll be back though at 6:05. Alex Swibby will be your presenter for our main sportscast.
Sports at 5 was brought to you by Total Tools. Total Tools, every tool, every trade.
For all your custom framing, printing, graphic design, and purchase of art, Make It Frame Art Jamaica Limited, serving you for over 40 years. The time by Frame Art Jamaica is
5:32.
Enough power tool, big to small. Chakama figure dig the wall. Upper Total Tools. Weed whacker figure trim the lawn. We have everything a job demand. Total Tools. We rent them, sell them and fix them. Also give Total Tools a call. When I say home improvement, landscape construction, a Total Tools are your option. Home improvement, landscape construction, Total Tools are your option. Total Tools, located at 102 Main Street, Ocho Rios, 34 Slibe Road, Kingston. And lot C6 Jacksaw, St. Anne's Bay. Call us today.
Unlock winnings, unlock value, unlock postpaid with Digicel.
When you sign up, stay active, or upgrade, you could win up to $1 million and more.
Unlock winnings with Digicel.
Authorized under Section 58.3 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Conditions apply. Promotion valid from February 6 to April 4.
Over a month ago, we invited you to be a part of something special, something different. And you know what? Over 500 of you said, all right, we're in. That means over 500 of you decided to move from just being a listener to being a part of the family. The Nationwide Family Club isn't just an idea anymore. It's real, it's growing, and it feels good.
And because family looks out for family, for the entire month of March, we're doing something extra. Every single week, one family club member will win a $25,000 supermarket voucher. That's 4 winners, 4 weeks, 4 real chances. Because when you stick with us, we believe you should feel it. Loyalty shouldn't be just be appreciated, it should feel rewarded.
The Nationwide Family Club is where you, our listeners, come closer. Not just hearing the stories, but seeing how they're made. Not just listening to the voices, but connecting with the people behind them. In the Family Club, you get early access to documentaries, exclusive content on air, member-only conversations, birthday shout-outs, breaking news alerts, and depending on your tier, studio experiences and private live streams. That's not just regular radio, that's family access.
This isn't just a subscription, it's connection, it's community, it's saying, I support what you do, and I want to be closer to it. More content, more interactions, more behind the scenes, and no, more chances to win.
And if you've been watching from the sidelines, we've been saving a seat for you. Join today, be a part of the first 1,000 family members, and this March, you could be one of 4 people walking away with a $25,000 supermarket voucher. Go to patreon.com/Nationwide News Network, the Nationwide Family Club, closer than radio, stronger than ever, and growing with you, our family.
Wake up, Jamaica.
It's another glorious day on Nationwide this morning. From your 6 a.m. alarm to the news at 6. Coming up in the news at 6 to me telling you what's on my mind.
To more news at 7 a.m. Coming up in the news at 7. And then the biggest issues dissected, interrogated and discussed on the front page. Nationwide this morning fires you up and sets you right for the remainder of the day.
And there's much more until 9 a.m. Want to know which roads to avoid on your morning commute?
Time now for Street Smarts 2 with Ludlow McLean.
Listen to Street Smart.
Want to hear more about things happening at the community level outside the bustling corporate area? Listen to Across Jamaica.
George, it's someone's birthday.
Happy birthday, yeah, my friend.
And that someone will hear a special greeting every morning via the Birthday Club.
Nationwide this morning on the revolution in media.
It's coffee, tea, and everything else
for those who want an energetic, rip-roaring start to their day.
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, by God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path. Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Cover Story is brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Save fast and accepted in more locations.
Multilink. Access every time, everywhere I go. Multilink. 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multilink, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
Good afternoon. Thank you so very much for sticking and staying with us right here inside Nationwide at 5. It's Must Listen Radio, and of course, you're inside the Cover Story. I'm your host, Tyrone Reed. Now, in today's edition of the Cover Story, we want to bring to you some excerpts from the Ministry of Health and Wellness's media briefing on the ending of the Cuban Health Program. Yeah, that's what we want to have a look at. Of course, it started around 4:30 thereabout. I gather it might still be going on. The Health Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton, says the government is exploring alternative arrangements to address gaps caused by the potential withdrawal of Cuban health workers. The minister was speaking at a media briefing as he responds to concerns raised about the termination of the Cuban medical program.
In the short term, the ministry will be working with the regional health authorities to activate what we call a contingency measure to maintain critical services. So that's our short-term surge plan, which includes revision of duty rosters, increased use of overtime and extended work hours. This happens routinely when we have a surge in cases. So if you have a spike in the flu season or in the dengue season, you have more demand on the system, then we implement a surge plan. So it's not a new thing. And given the possibility of fallout from Cubans who are working, Cuban healthcare workers in particular areas, we will trigger that plan, which we have a lot of experience in doing. And the regions have been asked so to do, which means overtime and redeployment of staff from low demand areas to higher demand areas. increase engagement of sessional staff, and use of special triage protocols. So it just means overtime, hiring more, using the same people to do more work through sessions. And also, we do have a plan around how we deal with triaging when there's overcrowding, and that will be triggered, or the regions have been asked to trigger that approach. The other short-term measure that is being discussed for implementation is the engagement of some outsourcing of some services through the private sector, and Cabinet has given its go-ahead for that. So I want to mention in particular radiotherapy services and cataract or surgeries, specifically linked to the Cuba eye care program at St. Joseph's. I want to go into that for a bit. The Jamaica Cuba eye care program will continue. That's the intention. Its operations will continue by the Cuban team up to the 20th of March. There's an agreement on that. And for the remainder of the program's operations, services will be limited to surgery and post-operative care. Now, what this means is that for surgical procedures for patients who are already scheduled and follow-up care for patients who have already undergone eye surgery and retina-related post-operative treatment and monitoring. So those who are prepped for surgery, and I think the number I got was about 130 something, 140. Those procedures will take place. So those who have those appointments, not to worry, that will take place. In addition to that, the post-surgery care will continue under the program using the same staff, Cuban healthcare workers, up until that time. Patients, therefore, who previously received surgery under the program are encouraged to attend their scheduled follow-up appointments to ensure proper recovery and continue care. In the meantime, we are working, and I've started that, on alternative arrangements to ensure the continuity of the screening program through a combination of our internal capacity as well as through some outsourcing arrangements. And we have got Cabinet's agreement on that. Agreement in the sense that it has a budgetary implication, meaning engaging the private sector. So I think it's important to say that we understand, fully appreciate the benefits of the eye care program at St. Joseph's. We know many Jamaicans have benefited from this, and it has been driven primarily by this agreement involving the Cuban workers. The intention is not to discontinue the program. The intention is to work with the existing team up to the point when they may discontinue or continue, depending on where the discussions lead, and beyond that, to find alternative ways to continue the work, because this is a very critical program through the methods that I have outlined earlier.
The voice there of the country's Health and Wellness Minister, Dr. Christopher Tufton. We're bringing you excerpts from a media conference that has been called to explain what are the next steps for Jamaica, given the fallout between the government of Jamaica and the government of Cuba over the medical program. Now, Christopher Tufton, they're trying to outline what needs to be done, but clearly Jamaica, if they are not able to retain these medical workers, nurses and doctors from Cuba, it will leave a huge chasm in the delivery of health services. We are up on the break. Yeah, but we're going to take the break right here inside Nationwide at 5, and we're going to come back and talk about what happened over the weekend when the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade had to provide details behind the failure of the Jamaica and Cuban governments to reach an agreement. More after these.
Order Pizza Hut online at pizzahutjamaica.com or through WhatsApp at 876-837-4488. Pizza Hut, now that's delivery. The time by Pizza Hut is
5:45.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we
use Multilink. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy. Look for the Multilink logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network. Multilink, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multilink?
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies, including plugs, switches, panel boards, and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer, and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
None of mercy. This one is very classic, dedicated to all the schoolers who are taking them.
If you've ever struggled to pass an exam, then you'll know that students today are under great pressure to get good grades and secure qualification needed to move on to higher education. The problem is that too many students are struggling alone and could really benefit from connecting with hardworking teachers and other bright students in other parts of the country and the region. Join me, Dennis Brooks, this and every Friday evening from 8 to 9, with a repeat on Saturday morning from 8 to 9. For the A-Team, a study group on radio, my team of teachers, students, and experts will break down the syllabus, giving you information, tips, and past paper questions that will help you get top grades in your upcoming exams. Follow us on Facebook Live and on Twitter and be a part of the community. It's the A-Team, Fridays at 8 p.m. with a repeat at 8 o'clock on Saturday morning. It's your free extra class on radio and social media. And it's right here on Nationwide 90 FM, the revolution in media.
Welcome back. Thank you so much for sticking and staying with us right here inside Nationwide at 5. Now, as I was telling you before the break, listeners, viewers, over the weekend, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade provided details behind the failure of the Technical Cooperation Program in Health between Jamaica and Cuba. The statement came amid criticism that under the Holness administration, Jamaica has effectively turned its back on the Cuban people. Since the termination by the government, Havana since issued a directive that their personnel prepare to return home. Of course, in a statement issued by our own government, there was talk of seeking to engage the medical professionals from Cuba independently. I think we have on the line with us now the country's health and wellness minister, who just wrapped up that media conference a short while ago. Dr. Tufton, top of the afternoon to you. Welcome once again to Nationwide at 5.
Hi, how are you?
Not too shabby. Dr. Tufton, I'm not certain if you addressed this at the media conference, but those efforts, are they still ongoing given the latest directive from the Cuban government that the medical professionals ought to make their way home? Are we still seeking to engage them independently?
Yeah, well, the offer has been made, and the offer is still on the table. We value the relationship that we have had over an extended period of time, as you have said. And what we want is just to ensure that we have an agreement that is in compliance with our laws and international laws. And then beyond that, hopefully continue and if possible expand. So, yeah, the offer is on the table, and the conversations continue. I can't give details of where we are and quantity numbers and, who is saying what except what has been made public. Some of those conversations are best not discussed in public also.
And should Jamaicans brace for disruptions in the short to medium term, at least?
Well, as I've said earlier on the press brief, we're working to minimize that. The program is valuable across the board, including the I program, which is quite popular. But we do have some contingencies and I outlined a series of those in the short term. The surge plan, which essentially means sessions over time, which we do from time to time when we have a surge in demand, whether it's a flu season or otherwise. We adjust the roster to manage the demand. In some instances, it would have to be private sector engagement through outsourcing, and that Cabinet agreed on today. Today, I went to Cabinet with outlining the plan. And in other circumstances, it involves some recruitment, some of which are imminent, based on some work that had taken place before. And then we'll see what happens in terms of the Cubans who are here and who may want to remain.
Could you remind us how many we might lose if all the Cubans are to return to Havana? How many health workers are we losing?
Approximately 260, 250 plus. I don't have the figures in front of me here.
Okay. Has the government been able to address the group of Cuban healthcare professionals together? Have you been able to have any kind of conversation, whether via the regional health authorities or otherwise, with the healthcare professionals from Cuba specifically? Have you been able to speak with them?
The discussions, firstly, at the bilateral level, is with the Cuban government through the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade and the Ministry of Health and Wellness. And those discussions, as has been said, have been going on for some time, over a year, I think it is. And that included even visits to Cuba, at least one visit in recent times, involving both ministries, where those conversations have been taking place. So it's a long process that has gone on leading up to this point. And in terms of the actual individuals, well, they clearly would have been contacted and are normally in dialogue anyway with the regional authorities or the unit or departments or institutions where they work.
And the date that the current tenure comes to an end for the Cuban professionals, is that March 20?
No, that's a specific program, which is the eye care program at St. Joseph's. Remember, we don't have an MOU currently, so there's really no agreement. What we have are contracts for batches of workers who came in at a particular time, given a particular period, and still are yet to serve out that period. So we have persons here who have agreements to work permits, as the case may be, up to 2028, early 2028.
Right.
They leave in different batches, and they come in different batches.
I did read that the expiration of the previous agreement was in February 2023, yes?
Yeah, exactly.
And why was the agreement allowed to remain in that state for 3 years without renewal? What was the cause of that?
The conversation, when you negotiate, sometimes it takes a while, and that's not unique to this agreement. Once those discussions take place, you have offers and counter offers and changes and considerations and visits and so on. So it really was just a matter of having discussion over a period of time. Bear in mind, too, that this was never done with any hostility. And I think it's unfortunate that there's an interpretation of that. This is done in the context of the value that we place on the program. And it was a conversation, a cordial conversation and negotiations. It just got to this point, and hence the decision to take this action take the decision.
One of the points that jumped out at me, Dr. Tufton, while I was reading the last release from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, issued on March 7, around the fifth paragraph, it says, more fundamentally, the government also discovered that salary payments for Cuban medical personnel, while calculated at the same level as their Jamaican counterparts, were being made by Jamaica to the Cuban authorities in U.S. dollars. The only payments made directly by the government of Jamaica to the personnel themselves were overtime payments. But what struck me there as odd, Minister, and I'd love if you could help us to understand this, is it says the government also discovered that the salary payments were being made by Jamaica to the Cuban authorities and not the workers themselves. How is it that the government of Jamaica is discovering that the government of Jamaica has been paying Cuba and not the workers?
Well, you know, the agreements that we have had in place have been long institutional agreements. Dating back, the first agreement was struck in 1976, and they were, you know, so they have a long history, and they have just been, as I understand it, continued and renewed, and you know, sometimes you may vary, but some of the fundamentals were not. So, you know, I hear the discussion that's taking place, and I'm sure, given the history and context of the agreement and at the time when it was developed, you may have, you know, some discrepancies around some of the details. But I think, generally speaking, the program was working on a particular understanding. The government, in its wisdom, has a right to rethink, relook, and we have to remain relevant to the times and to the laws and to what our outlook is in terms of the future, and hence the renegotiation, which we're entitled to. And that's really what happened. So I prefer not to spend too much time on that aspect of it, because it really doesn't help the situation. The issue right now is, how do we move forward and get the work?
But we have to pay attention to it, though, Minister, because it is a part of the reason why we are here where we are now. We can't just brush over it. We have to interrogate what previously obtained, and that must be problematic. If I can get the question out, if it is that the government of Jamaica is telling not just Jamaicans, the world, that the government of Jamaica is discovering that the government of Jamaica has been paying the Cuban authorities and not the workers, that raises serious concerns. How did the government not know that this is what the government is doing?
Right. So those are concerns that I guess have to be addressed. What I do know is that the discussions that are taking place now does involve direct payments to the Cuban workers, and that would have been one of the sticking points, which led to the drawn-out, protracted conversation, and hence where we are today. So,
when did you become aware of it as Minister of Health, that this is what happened?
Again, you know, I don't want to get into that because I don't know how it helps the current situation.
Minister, that can't be an acceptable position for you to take. This is a serious matter. We have been participating in a matter, in a program where people are said to be in servitude, and we were paying the Cuban government and not the workers. That should detain us. I'm not so certain why you're saying that it shouldn't.
That's not entirely correct, though, again. And this is why I say there's a lot of interpretation, which
I have to stop you there. I'm not interpreting anything, though. That is what your release says from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And just for clarity, you're saying there is a misinterpretation, and we have to address that. The statement from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs says that the government of Jamaica also discovered, that while the pay is being calculated at the same level as their Jamaican counterparts, the payments for the Cuban medical personnel were being made by Jamaica to the Cuban authorities in US dollars. That's what the statement says.
The statement, you may interpret it that way, but the government was paying, as I understand it, the workers a portion of their salary, and a portion went to the Cuban agency that was responsible for helping to recruit and deploy these qualified professionals. So it wasn't that the workers weren't getting paid also. They were, but they were getting a part of the payment, and the agency getting a part of that payment.
Well, Minister, perhaps you need to look at your interpretation, because this statement goes on to say the only payments made directly by the government of Jamaica to the personnel themselves were overtime payments. That is what the release says. So unless you are not understanding what is happening,
I'm understanding very clearly, and I'm stating what the situation is, and this is why I'm saying that this was the situation, and this is what we have been, one of the issues that we have been renegotiating.
So for the avoidance of doubt, the government of Jamaica was paying the Cuban medical professionals their salaries in full or in part, and it wasn't just overtime payments, because that's what the statement says.
In part. So part of the salary went to the Cuban agency / the government. So it's a one government party country. That is the agency that deals with the selection, the screening, and the identification of those workers that we need.
How is the part? 50%, 60%, whatever?
I don't have the details of it, but I know the workers are also paid a portion. And then anything else they earn in terms of overtime and session, and they're paid.
Directly to them?
Yes.
Is there any fear of, and I have to run now because we're out of time, a diplomatic row developing over engaging these workers independently, given where the situation is right now? Any concern about that?
That's not the intention. As I said, this is not a hostile discussion, and I'm sure the conversations will continue. This is an important program. It's an important relationship, and we would certainly like to see it continue, but under different arrangements. So I'm sure the conversations will continue at different levels, at the bilateral level, as well as it is taking place at the level of public health.
And we continue to watch it. Health Minister Dr. Christopher Tufton, thank you very much, sir, for coming on and being with us. I appreciate it.
Okay, sure.
All right, this has been the cover story. The headlines are next.
Cover Story was brought to you by
Multilink. Roll with control. Use Multilink. Safe, fast, and accepted in more locations.
The time brought to you by Guardian Life. Live secure, live easy is
3 minutes after 6.
Nationwide headlines at 6.
Good evening. The headlines at 6. I'm Norige Banton. Jamaica's Independent Fiscal Commission, IFC, is rejecting claims that it inappropriately shared its recent report with the public ahead of its tabling in the House of Representatives. The defense follows claims by Finance Minister Favour Williams that the commission was out of line. In a statement on Monday, the commission cited enabling legislation, which it says empowers it to publish information it deems important to the public. During Wednesday's sitting of Parliament's Standing Finance Committee, opposition spokesman on finance Julian Robinson queried why the Independent Fiscal Commission's Economic and Fiscal Assessment Report had not been provided to parliamentarians ahead of time. Even more curious to Robinson was the publication of said report by the media. Finance Minister Favour Williams could also be heard in an off-microphone comment suggesting that the report should not have been made public before parliamentarians had sight of it.
I mean, and I'm not going to tell you I'm au fait on all the procedural matters, but an important document of that nature has to be brought here. I mean, while it may be in the public domain through other means, to my certain knowledge, the Commissioner would have sent it to Parliament, and the procedure that you may need to employ to ensure it is here, we need to do that. It shouldn't be that members rely on the media or other ways to find out what is in that report.
Well, the IFC shouldn't be out there in the media.
No, I'm not saying it should be in the media, but I've seen it.
But I'm saying the IFC should not have been in the media talking about it before it was laid in Parliament.
In responding to the concerns, Fiscal Commissioner Courtney Williams says the discussions revealed obvious unawareness and misunderstandings by some parliamentarians regarding the Commission's authority. Williams says the Independent Fiscal Commission Act 2021 clearly empowers the Commissioner to share any of his reports publicly through the Commission's website once the report has been submitted to Parliament. Local Government Minister Desmond McKenzie says President of the Jamaica Teachers Association, JTA, Mark Malava, has no authority to give his ministry any ultimatum regarding the use of schools as shelters.
I wouldn't even waste the time a day to get involved in any controversy with the JTA president. The president and the JTA own no schools in this country, and they can't give the government an ultimatum to move persons who are homeless, who have experienced the devastation of disaster out of schools. So we are not working within any agenda set by the JTA, and we're not going to be bullied or forced into any position. I shouldn't be surprised by the tone and the tenor of the president.
Minister McKenzie was responding to comments made by Malava during a speech at the JTA's post-Melissa National Thanksgiving service at Sharon Baptist Church in St. Elizabeth on Sunday. Malava gave the local government ministry 3 weeks to move people displaced by Hurricane Melissa out of school properties. He says failure to act in the time stated will result in the JTA escalating its reaction. The JTA contends that housing shelterees and students at the same time poses safety risks and undermines public confidence in institutions. But Minister McKenzie told Nationwide News he's yet to receive any report of discord between shelterees and the schools accommodating them. The country's murder tally has surpassed the 100 mark. Still, the Jamaica Constabulary Force, the JCF, says homicides are on the decline. According to the JCF's latest crime data, murders have declined by 28% so far this year when compared to the corresponding period in 2025. The JCF says 105 homicides were recorded between January 1 and March 7 this year. That's 41 fewer than the 146 murders recorded in the corresponding period last year. According to the JCF, the Kingston Central and St. Andrew North divisions have recorded no murders to date. Those were the headlines at 6. I'm Nora Gay Banton. Sports is next.
We are the best at what we do. At Hose Assembly and Supply Limited, we supply hose, fittings, and tools. We guarantee we can't be beaten when price and quality are combined. You brand us the Hose and Tool Boss because we deliver the most effective industrial solutions. Come in and experience the joy of shopping with Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. Call us 876-923-3936 or visit 173 Hagley Park Road, 2 Charlesworth Crescent, or Montego Bay Trade Center. Hose Assembly and Supply Limited. More than just hoses. Now open every Sunday.
From the biggest tracks to the biggest energy, Nationwide keeps it moving. If you love the vibes, come and lock in with us for real.
World boss, leave a prison could stop me.
Join the Nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Practice. God, me say you watch you over me practice.
Multi-link, access every time, everywhere I go. Multi-link, 24/7 access for me. It's just a win-win when we use multi-link. This card is Jamaican built, yeah. Fast and secure, you can use anywhere. Spend while supporting the economy.
Look for the Multi-Link logo on your card and benefit from Jamaica's largest debit payment network.
Multi-link, 24/7 access for me.
What would I do without my Multi-Link?
Every day, Jamaicans have something to say. In the group chats, on social media, in the streets, there's a place where it all comes together. The comment section. This is not a lecture. This is not a call-in show. This is the hottest topics of the day, filtered through real opinions, real WhatsApp messages, real voice notes, real reactions. You agree, disagree, sound off, text it, voice note it, debate it. Comments section, Monday to Friday from 7 to 7:30 p.m. only on Nationwide 90 FM, the new revolution in media.
Good evening with your sports report. I'm Alwick Swaby. We start with a track and field as Jamaica Athletics Administrative Association J3As announced a 27-strong aggregation for the 2026 World Indoor Athletics Championships in Poland, March 20 to 23. The women's list of 12 is headed by informed sprinter Janelle Smith and includes Brianna Liston, who's named to her first senior national team. The rest of the women's team include Megan Simmons, Onika Wilson, Nikisa Price, Kellyanne Beckford, Shana K. Anderson, Natoya Gould-Toppin, Shania Douglas, Lamar Diston, Nia Robinson, and Shantae Foreman. World's 100-meter silver medalist Tina Clayton is named as a reserve. The 17-member male squad is led by World and Olympic 100-meter silver medalists Kishane Thompson, Akeem Blake, Brian Lavelle, Demaria Price, Jerome Campbell, Delano Kennedy, Raheem Hales, Navaski Anderson, Rivaldo Marshall, Kimar Farquharson, Tyrese Taylor, Demar Francis, Kira McLeod, Tajay Gale, and Jordan Scott. There are 3 reserve: Jordan Turner, Vashan Vasiani, and Kadrian Golson. Brian Smith will manage the team with Paul Francis, Michael Frater, and Carolee Ricketts, the coaches. Jamaica won 4 medals, 2 silver and 2 bronze at the last World Indoors in China in 2025 to finish 17th on the medal table. Meanwhile, there are uncertainties around the participation of Sonoria Douglas at the World Indoor Championships. Douglas, who sped to an impressive 11.06 seconds to win the under-20 girls 100 meters at Carifta Trials on Friday at the National Stadium, has been named as part of the 4x400 meters relay for the World Indoors. However, her coach Gareth Smith says Douglas is unlikely to make the trip. Smith told the Nationwide Sports on Monday that they did give the J3As permission to select the young phenom. However, he said they did so not considering that the team would only be back from the championships on the day that the Grace Kennedy Boys and Girls Championships would get underway. He said they now plan to communicate that with the J3As with the hope that she will be withdrawn.
World Indoors wasn't in our plans any at all. But we are happy for the consideration that they consider her. And so it's kind of close with her traveling, returning, and then champs. No, well, initially I gave them the thumbs up, not recognizing the dates. I'm quite sure there's some other day that they could make the substitution with.
Garth Smythe. Now, William Knibb Memorial High School sprinter Sanjay Seymour is thrilled to earn his first opportunity to compete at the Carifta Games set for April 46 in Grenada. Seymour secured his spot on Jamaica team following an impressive showing at the Carifta Trials held at the National Stadium over the weekend. Competing in the under-20 boys category, Seymour stormed to victory in the 200 meters, posting 20.95 seconds. He also delivered a strong performance in the 100 meters, clocking 10.20 seconds to finish second and cement his place on the national team. Despite the achievement, Seymour was quick to point out that this will not be his first time wearing the Jamaican colours.
It feels very good, I made the under-23 team last year for the 200. So making in the Carifta team this year, which is my first year, and this is my last year at school, so it's a very good feeling.
Seymour is confident he can deliver even faster performances.
I'm satisfied with the 10:20. I think I'm capable of going much faster though, because I didn't get the perfect execution as we are planning to do. But it's step by step, and we see our mistakes and just go again and try to correct it on the day or whenever I'm going to run again. And that would be champs. So we're just taking it step by step, fixing up some of the errors, and we go again.
Sanjay Seymour, he was speaking on the Mr. Analyst podcast. No track and field analyst Leighton Levy believes Brianna Williams' transition back into Otto Boldon's training camp should be seamless because her talent is undeniable and there's enough evidence that Boldon knows how to maximize her abilities.
So Brianna has never doubted her talent. What I think went wrong is that sometimes the coach and the athlete don't necessarily mesh together. Not every coach is going to successfully coach an athlete to the level that the athlete, deserves. Because for whatever it is, maybe the program doesn't work right. Maybe there's something off with the environment. There are a lot of factors that go into why athletes thrive under particular coaches.
Levy added that the pair could pull together something special, especially in a calendar year that will host the Commonwealth Games and World Athletics Ultimate Championships.
With Otto, she knows what she's getting, and he knows what he's getting. And I think the understanding between both of them, the familiarity with the program, and his ability to be able to tweak the program to suit her, I think is a kind of synchronicity that I think she probably needs to get her career back on track.
Leighton Levy. Now to footballers. Racing United blanked Harbourview 3-0 in their rare and never Jamaica Premier League encounter at the Harbourview Mini Stadium on Monday. Giovanni Cunningham shot the St. Catherine-based Racing in front after 28 minutes before prolific striker Tajay Grant doubled the lead on 53 minutes. DeAndre Thomas scored the third in the 80th minute. A win for Racing pushed them back into second place, 3 points behind the leaders Mobay United, who will be in action at 7:30 p.m. against Waterhouse at Drews Land. Now Manchester City will host Liverpool in the headline clash of the FA Cup quarter-finals following Monday's draw. The two Premier League giants are set to be for a blockbuster meeting as they battle for a place in the semi-finals of England's oldest domestic cup competition on the weekend of April 4 to 5. Meanwhile, Sky Bet League One strugglers Port Vale faces a daunting trip to Stamford Bridge where they will take on Chelsea. Premier League leaders Arsenal, who secured their place in the last 8 after defeating Mansfield on Saturday, have been drawn away to Championship side Southampton. West Ham and Brentford West Ham are through 4-2 on penalties to set up a meeting with Leeds. And players and staff of the West Indies senior men's team will have to wait just a few more days before they can return home from India, where they competed at the 2020 Cricket World Cup. The regional team, which has been stranded on the subcontinent since March 1 due to the crisis in West Asia, have been informed that they will now leave in the early hours of Tuesday. Both West Indies and South Africa are scheduled to leave on a chartered flight on March 10, with the Proteas traveling to Johannesburg, while the Windies will travel to Antigua from Kolkata. According to the report, the two sides were earlier expecting to leave on Sunday, but confirmation of the new date was given to them on Sunday. It is the third time the regional team's traveling plans have been altered. They were initially scheduled to leave on Friday, but that date was then pushed back to Sunday. 3 members of South Africa's squad, Keshav Maharaj, Jason Smith and George Linde, along with the entire management team, were to leave India on Sunday and head to New Zealand, where South Africa will play 5 T20 International starting March 15. Now to basketballers. President of the Jamaica Basketball Association, Paulton Gordon, is hailing the appointment of Chris Williams as chair of the National Basketball League commercial arm as the right move at this juncture in the country's basketball program.
Well, we usually take an evidence-based approach, and we have seen Chris in the economic and commercial space as an entrepreneur, and I've seen him in the sporting landscape, and I've seen what he's done in terms of trying to elevate another sport, in that case football. And we have been having discussions with Chris over the last probably 3-4 years, and just talking generally about how can we elevate basketball. So now we know basketball have a lot of potential because we are next door to the biggest market, which is USA, and there are opportunities that we can tap into.
For Gordon, Jamaica's basketball is on the rise in popularity and growth, as was seen during the recent 2 matches in the FIBA America's World Cup qualifiers at the National Indoor Sports Center. He added that it was of paramount interest to keep that fire burning.
What better person to to tap into that and to engage for this situation. Well, again, we have to capitalize on the moment. We have interests of stakeholders generally, and we see the opportunities in the diaspora as well. And we want all the pieces to come together. What we want is a solid base of local club league and local basketball for players to transition either to other clubs, well, certainly to other clubs, but also to representation, national representation. And if you have a solid base program here that can create that sort of ecosystem for them, then that's what we want to do.
Paulton Gordon, I'm Alex Swiby, and that's your sports.
If you've ever called in, shared your story, or got help on this show, then you're already family. Now make it official. Join the nationwide 90 FM Family Club today on Patreon.
Commercial spaces for you. Parks and attractions for you. Housing and residential developments for you. Beautiful rental properties for you. Improving quality of life through infrastructure development across Jamaica for you. The Urban Development Corporation, making development happen for you. Brought to you by the Urban Development Corporation.
UDC for you.
Over a month ago, we invited you to be a part of something special, something different. And you know what? Over 500 of you said, all right, we're in. That means over 500 of you decided to move from just being a listener to being a part of the family. The Nationwide Family Club isn't just an idea anymore. It's real, it's growing, and it feels good.
And because family looks out for family, for the entire month of March, we're doing something extra. Every single week, one family club member will win a $25,000 supermarket voucher. That's 4 winners, 4 weeks, 4 real chances. Because when you stick with us, we believe you should feel it. Loyalty shouldn't just be appreciated, it should feel rewarded.
The Nationwide Family Club is where you, our listeners, come closer. Not just hearing the stories, but seeing how they're made. Not just listening to the voices, but connecting with the people behind them. In the Family Club, you get early access to documentaries, exclusive content on air, member-only conversations, birthday shout-outs, breaking news alerts, and depending on your tier, studio experiences and private live streams. That's not just regular radio, that's family access.
This isn't just a subscription, it's connection, it's community, it's saying, I support what you do, and I want to be closer to it. More content, more interactions, more behind the scenes, and no, more chances to win.
And if you've been watching from the sidelines, we've been saving a seat for you. Join today, be a part of the first 1,000 family members, and this March, you could be one of 4 people walking away with a $25,000 supermarket voucher. Go to patreon.com/Nationwide News Network, the Nationwide Family Club, closer than radio, stronger than ever, and growing with you, our family.
Tune in to The Revolution in Media on Tuesday, March 10 for Nationwide's post-budget analysis series. From 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m., our panel of experts will break down the national budget and what it means for businesses, workers, and you. Hear insights from President of the Jamaica Manufacturers and Exporters Association, Catherine Silvera, Senior Lecturer of Economics at UWI Mona, Dr. Christine Clark, Senior Tax Manager at the JN Group, Everald Dewar, Managing Director of A. Peart Advisory Services, Alison Peart, and Social Commentator Newton Harris. Don't miss Nationwide's post-budget analysis series on Tuesday, March 10 during Nationwide at 5 from 5:30 p.m. to 7 p.m. Only on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
Do you have a consumer-related issue? Want to learn more about matters concerning you as a consumer? Well, keep it locked to Nationwide 90 FM for the Consumer Hour with me, Nora Gay Banton. Weekdays from 9 to 10 a.m. For all your consumer-centric matters, stay tuned to the Consumer Hour on Nationwide 90 FM, a revolution in media.
It's Monday, get over your blues. Or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. The E-Zone is here for you. With this thing, Honeybee.
And Karim Boyatings
from 3 to 5 p.m. on Nationwide 90 FM.
We've got your entertainment news.
Then we want to hear your views. Why you say?
Jump in the mix.
Or the hot seat.
Don't miss our brain busters.
Or the crazy giveaways.
Let's talk fashion.
Send us your outfit of the day. Ooh, cutesy. Very demure.
Are you looking for love?
Come on one of our blind dates. Send your request to ezoneblindates@gmail.com. That's ezoneblindates@gmail.com.
And stay tuned for your confessions.
These are my confessions. Share them with us at ezoneconfessions@yahoo.com. I mean, is this planet Earth?
Is it?
I don't know. Let me check. Either way, it's got a buzz.
And a bugger thing.
Ow! Ow!
Hi there. Here's some good news for these trying times. Quote, by God's word, I can see where I'm going. They throw a beam of light on my dark path. Unquote. Psalm 119, verse 105. Listen for God's word weekdays at 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. through
Oasis. Stop by for a refreshing drink and share a God perspective for the day.
Oasis. Weekdays 5:45 a.m. and 12:55 p.m. right here on Nationwide, a revolution in media.
The rebroadcast of the Oasis can be heard weekdays at 5:45 a.m.
Turn up the heat with Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classifieds feature. If you have a car for sale, room for rent, or yard sale come up. If you look at work or need stuff. If you provide a service, make it a Hot Listing, Nationwide 90 FM's new on-air and online classified segment. Your listing plays again and again. From morning till evening. You sing it, we play it. You say it once, Jamaica hears it all day, every hour. Contact our sales team now at 876-630-1210 or sales at nationwidenewsnetwork.com. Hot Listings on Nationwide 90 FM, a new revolution in media.
Welcome back. Top of the evening to you. You're still live inside Must Listen Radio. This is Nationwide at 5. Of course, before we get into what we have planned for you inside the nation's business, let me just bring to you a clarification here. You know, we interviewed the health minister earlier in the cover story. And we just want to share with you a clarification of a point Dr. Tufton made during the cover story. Let's have a listen at what Dr. Tufton said, and then we'll read to you the clarification that he has subsequently provided.
But the government was paying, as I understand it, the workers a portion of their salary, and a portion went to the Cuban agency that was responsible for helping to recruit and deploy these qualified professionals. So it wasn't that the workers weren't getting paid also, they were. But they were getting a part of the payment and the agency getting a part of that payment.
Well, the voice of the Health Minister, Christopher Tufton, but he has subsequently clarified, and let me read it for you. The Minister of Health and Wellness, Dr. Christopher Tufton, called our news center after the cover story, seeking to clarify the conditions under which the health professionals were paid. Dr. Tufton says the Jamaican government paid the salaries to the Cuban agency who handled the recruitment. That agency in turn paid the healthcare workers a portion of their salaries. The minister also said Cubans earn directly from special sessions and other allowances, travel, overtime, etc. He added that the agreement has been long-standing. He says it began in 1976. The minister said attempts at renegotiating led to delays. All right. So the minister clarifying what exactly was paid by the government of Jamaica to the Cuban healthcare workers. Yes, the minister wanting to clarify that because he had suggested a portion of the salaries were being paid to the workers directly, but more in keeping with what we heard from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs in that statement issued on March 7th, saying, look, what was paid to the workers directly was the overtime payments. Yes, so this clarification is more in keeping with that. However, one of the things that we definitely need to get to the bottom of is this business of the government discovering what the government of Jamaica was doing. How is that possible? That is entirely problematic, and it's something that we really need to get some answers to. Now, let's change gears a bit inside the nation's business and turn our attention to the budget, the nation's budget. The 2026-2027 budget debate is set to begin this week with Finance Minister Favour Williams making the opening presentation on Tuesday, that is tomorrow. This after Parliament's Standing Finance Committee completed its review of the estimates of expenditure during 2 marathon sittings last week. The government has tabled a $1.4 trillion budget, which will be partially funded by a $29.5 billion tax package. The bulk of those taxes are expected from the new levy on sugary drinks, from which the government expects to yield just over $10 billion. The tax package marks the first time in 10 years that the Holness administration has imposed new taxes on Jamaicans. That in and of itself is an accomplishment. Yeah. Opposition spokesman on finance, Julian Robinson, will respond to the government's budget on Thursday, March 12. He has already been highly critical of the government's tax package. The opposition leader, Mark Golding, will make his contribution to the budget debate on Tuesday, March 17, while Prime Minister Dr. Andrew Holness, will speak on Thursday, March 19. The Finance Minister, as is customary, will close the debate on Tuesday, March 24. In the meantime, economist Keenan Faulkner says he's expecting details on a range of key issues, including the functioning of the National Reconstruction and Resilience Authority, NARA. We are now being joined by the Managing Director of Strategic Alignment Limited, Robert Winter, Honorary Treasurer, Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, John Butler. Gentlemen, good evening and welcome to Nationwide at 5.
Good evening.
Good evening, John. Good evening.
All right. Let's begin with you, Robert Winter, Managing Director of Strategic Alignment Limited. What are you expecting from the Finance Minister?
Okay. First of all, we must understand what the budget really is, and I think there hasn't been a proper focus on the purpose of the budget. There's been too much of an accounting focus, and although my friend John here is an expert on tax, but it should be on how to get growth and development out of what we have. Now, when it comes to taxes, we have to cover our expenditure. Our expenditure is divided into 3. 1, what is required to drive the government, just its normal operations, and that usually constitutes over 90% of the budget. There's a capital budget which is really meant to improve the environment within which we operate. And then a third component should be how we go about growing the economy. Now, traditionally, there's not much, at least identified for growing the economy. And, you know, we have had challenges in growing the economy long before COVID, long before Melissa. And I hope this year, the minister, knowing very well that we'll have declines because of Melissa, how do we really fund the recovery and the growth of the economy while, you know, maintaining the basic services that have to be provided by the government? That's what I want to say, because, you know, the taxes are paid not by the companies pass on the tax. So whatever taxes you provide to the welfare of us and companies, it's going to be passed through to the common person. So one way or the other, don't care how you juggle it, it's going to be paid by the lower level. So what I want to see is how we're going to manage that recovery and drive growth that was not there, that was missing before Melissa.
Yeah. Thank you for that, Robert Winter. John Butler, if we could bring you into the conversation at this juncture. Now, the Melissa basically made things very, very difficult for the finance minister. Now there's the war in the Middle East, yeah, and of course global oil prices reportedly jumping to about $104 per barrel. It's a difficult wicket for the finance minister, isn't it?
Well, I think the level of uncertainty that there is due to conflict in the Middle East, due to trade disruption, all of those things certainly do increase the risks to the fiscal position and to growth in Jamaica. I think on the oil side, it's worth mentioning that story is moving so fast, it's difficult to keep up. I believe oil prices closed in the 80s this evening. So it is yo-yoing, and that's the nature of the uncertainty we have right now. I think despite all of the uncertainty, the fact that Jamaica has come a long way on its fiscal discipline journey in the last 10 years, 15 years, means we're in a better position to weather the storm in terms of getting through periods like this than we have been in the past. And even despite Melissa, our debt is still at a sustainable level, and we have a path to get it back under control pretty quickly.
Now, if I could stay with you, there was a development with the tabling of the report from the Independent Fiscal Commission. And of course, it was a point of discussion in Parliament during the Standing Finance Committee. Mr. Butler, we heard from the Fiscal Commissioner saying the law only requires for him to send the report to Parliament. He doesn't have to wait for it to be tabled. But there are people who are raising concerns about the assessment of the budget by the Independent Fiscal Commission, and that should it be that the Commission is able to, once it sends to Parliament, it doesn't have to wait until it's tabled. Do you find that to be problematic in your estimation of how things have been going?
Well, I think the reports have made their way into the public domain without a long delay. I think they've been published relatively quickly. And I think what's very interesting about the Independent Fiscal Commissioner is, despite the fact that role is advisory in nature, he doesn't really have any hard power. His recommendations have already had effect. The fact that our revenue measures got announced a month earlier than they ever have been before, that's the implementation of his recommendation. The fact that the corporate income tax deadline has been pushed back a month, much to the delight of tax professionals like me, that is again implementing a recommendation of the Fiscal Commissioner. So I think both the government and the Commissioner have to be commended for, an office that could potentially have been a talking shop, is having real effects in improving our fiscal framework and in adding rigor to the process.
Robert Winter, the first time the Fiscal Commissioner commented on a budget presented by the Holness administration, he described it as credible. Now he's saying, I don't have enough information to make a determination on some key areas. How important is it that the finance minister, in her address in opening the budget debate, that she responds to those concerns?
Well, both are creatures of the government, the Minister of Finance and the Fiscal Commission. And I believe that there should be some meetings of the mind. It could be that it is run by the Fiscal Commission to get their input before the minister comes to Parliament with the budget. I don't think it should be a situation where the minister should be double guessing. I think these two should actually, although they're independent, I'm not saying they need to be forced to agree, but at least there should be some input by the Fiscal Commission before.
But wouldn't that sully the independence of the Fiscal Commission? You want to keep them separate?
No, it's not a sully. No, remember they're independent and they can say whatever they want. But I mean, the budgeting process is an iterative process in the first place, right? And you put through some figures, you check back and forth until you come to some equilibrium. And part of getting that equilibrium should be the inclusion and comments by the Fiscal Commission. Just comments, not to force them to accept or to agree with it. But at least the ministry can then take a second look and say maybe they're right or maybe they're wrong, but they should be separate.
And this process you recommended would be made public ahead of time, because the sullying of the independence I'm talking about would be so it comes out now that here's the budget and we've behind closed doors we've spoken with the independent Fiscal Commission and they've given us the thumbs up, as opposed to the Fiscal Commission coming out and saying, this is what has been presented. We've looked at it, and here is our independent assessment of it.
No, you can still have that independent assessment,
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to force them to say, I agree with you. Right. The minister can disagree and still move forward because the minister has the authority to come up with a budget. Right? And if they still strongly disagree, the Fiscal Commission can still come out and say they strongly disagree. So the independence remain. But I think collaboration can help rather than the situation we are now and they're back and forth and back and forth.
John Butler, what say you to what's being raised here by Robert Winter?
I mean, I don't see any harm in there being consultation like that, like he describes. I'm aligned with Robert. I think it can be done in a way that doesn't impair the independence, and something that improves the ongoing dialogue between the Ministry of Finance and the Commissioner, that can lead to them the Commissioner being able to offer better scrutiny of the numbers because they've had a longer opportunity or more back and forth in looking at them. I don't think that can do any harm.
Robert Winter, we're quickly running out of time, but the debate will also feature responses from Julian Robinson and contributions from Mark Goling and the Prime Minister. What kind of policy differences do you expect to emerge during this debate, and given the climate that it's coming in?
Well, for example, I heard you spoke that Keenan is expecting to hear about NARA.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't get it from the Minister of Finance. I think that will come from the Prime Minister. I just want to hear, and everybody needs to hear, how well have we recovered from Melissa so far, and what is our prognosis going down the road in terms of our recovery. Now, one of the things I have been concerned about is that there was a time when the budget was done in the context of a certain growth. We might not have much growth this year, but it was done in the context of a growth. Now, I think that was abandoned about a decade or more ago, and I think the Planning Institute of Jamaica needs to get much more involved in this process. The planning, because the budget is part of the overall planning process. We have, at the highest level, the Cabinet has a retreat for the strategic direction. We have the corporate plans done by the different ministries, department, agencies, and we have the budget. Now, all three are misaligned as far as I'm concerned, and I think it's time they get back in misalignment, because usually the budget and the corporate plans are done before December 31st, and then the high-level direction is done at a January retreat of the Cabinet, which makes no sense to me. So we need to realign our chief planning activities as a government, and so everything lines up.
We have less than 30 seconds, gentlemen, and I want to give you a quick throwaway one. This one is a bat up and catch for both of you. Beginning with you, John Butler. These budget debates, the contributions can be very long. You heard the international media covering the State of the Union address by President Trump, saying it was one of the longest speeches, and our marathon presentations usually eclipse that time frame. Should the speakers in this year's budget be mindful of how long they speak for? John Butler, quickly from you, and then I'd love to hear from Robert Winter.
Yes, I would say in short, yes. I grew up in Ireland. The budget speech there, the betting, the bookkeepers used to always take bets on it. It was very rarely longer than 1 hour. So it was a bit of a shock coming to Jamaica and seeing the 3 and 4 hours we have here.
Robert Winter, what say you?
You know, I grew up in the era where Michael Manley would be finishing his presentation at 7:38 in the evenings. So, and this is more than just about the budget. This is almost about the state of the nation.
Which is what the State of the Union is.
Exactly. So,
and an hour and a half is what they're expecting.
Right, but we need less than that. We can't, you know, there's a saying, and I agree with John. There's a saying. If you have much to say, you say in few words. If you have nothing to say it in many words. And that is in the context in which I think the budget speeches we have.
We have to leave you there, gentlemen. Robert Winter, Managing Director, Strategic Alignment Limited, and John Butler, Honorary Treasurer, the Jamaica Chamber of Commerce, JCC. Gentlemen, thanks for the time and the thoughts. We appreciate it.
You're quite welcome. Thanks for having me on.
Indeed. This is Nationwide at 5. We take the break right here and come back and take you around the world.
Drive the most exciting new vehicles in Jamaica. Schedule your 2024 Ford Ranger pickup or Ford Everest 7-seater SUV test drive now. Call or visit KIG today.
The time by KIG is
6:47.
Persons with disabilities and their caregivers. Register on I Am Able, My JCPD, the official digital platform of the Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Created in partnership with UNICEF, the online platform makes it easy for you to connect to information, programs, and support. Sign up today at jcpd.gov.jm/IamAble or call the JCPD Help Desk at 876-447-0444 for assistance. The Jamaica Council for Persons with Disabilities. Educating, advocating, empowering.
For all your electrical needs, visit ABC Electrical Sales. They stock a wide variety of electrical supplies including plugs, switches, panel boards and conduits, plus energy-saving fixtures. ABC Electrical Sales stocks brands like GE, Siemens, Philips, Cutler Hammer and Allen Bradley. They also offer free island-wide delivery just to suit your needs. Visit them at Shop 8, Hagley Park Plaza, Kingston 10, or call 876-754-3714-5 or 876-754-3825-8. ABC Electrical Sales, for a better choice in the electrical business.
Unlock winnings, unlock value, unlock postpaid with Digicel. Sign up for your postpaid plan now, win $1 million. When you sign up and unlock postpaid with Digicel, you can win up to $1 million and more. Just sign up or switch to postpaid, upgrade or activate an add-on in the My Digicel app. Pay your bill in full on time and you can win an iPhone 17 Pro Max every week. A bill write-off up to $10 grand, a grand prize of $1 million. Unlock winnings with Digicel. Better connected.
Authorized under Section 58 of the Betting, Gaming and Lotteries Act. Conditions apply. Promotion valid from February 6 to April 4.
As a taxi man, every mickle make a muckle. I see him way, so BCIC easy pay stay.
Having 11 months to pay my car and home insurance, little by little, puts me at ease.
Exactly. With my type of business, I don't have to fret about pay a big money, yet I always covered.
Get as much as 11 months to pay your car and home insurance while enjoying 100% coverage with BCIC Easy Pay.
Welcome back. I know Dana has told me she didn't choose this one, but I do question Dana's taste in music. In around the world today, U.S. and Israeli warplanes launched new waves of strikes on targets across Iran on Monday. That's today, as large crowds took to the streets in Tehran in a defiant show of support for Mojtaba Khamenei, the country's newly appointed supreme leader. The conflict, now in its second week, continued to escalate with fresh Iranian missile and drone attacks targeting Israel, U.S. bases across the Middle East, and energy infrastructure in the Gulf. The Guardian is reporting that in Lebanon, Israel pressed its offensive against Hezbollah with raids in the south and airstrikes in Beirut. An Iranian missile was shot down over Turkey, while drone strikes were reported in Bahrain, the United Arab Emirates, and Saudi Arabia. The French President Emmanuel Macron says his country and its allies were preparing a defensive mission to the Gulf to protect oil supplies. Yes, preparing a defensive mission to the Gulf to protect oil supplies. In Tehran's Engelhab Square on Monday, thousands gathered to offer allegiance to Iran's new supreme leader hours after the appointment was formally announced, chanting "Death to America, death to Israel," and "God is great." Some waved Iranian flags. Others waved banners bearing the portrait of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, the new leader's father, who was killed after 37 years in power by an Israeli airstrike in the first moments of the war. More in this report from ABC News.
Well, for more, I want to bring in someone with an inside perspective on this conflict. J.D. Simpkins is a Marine Corps veteran of the Iraq War and editor-in-chief of the Military Times and Defense News. Great to have you with us, J.D.
Glad to be here.
So, in Iraq, there was no defined end game. Do you see an end game here?
Currently, we're not seeing an end game. I mean, we've heard objectives. We've heard about eliminating Iran's Navy. We've heard about eliminating their ability to rebuild their ballistic missile capacity. But there is no end game as we're seeing it right now, which kind of runs counter to what we continue to hear from Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, who has said this conflict is not that conflict. This does not have vague objectives. This has clearly defined outcomes that we're after, but we're yet to really see what those might be. And as we've been covering here now, the successor to Khamenei is his son. And that's, the continuation of the regime itself would appear to run at odds with what the administration has been kind of pushing.
Right. If we look at Afghanistan 20 years ago, got rid of the Taliban. The Taliban is now back in place. Yep. Now we've taken out the Ayatollah, and it looks like an Ayatollah is going back in.
That's right. There's 20 years in Afghanistan, as you've mentioned, not to mention thousands of American lives sacrificed in pursuit of that war, only to trillions of dollars later, thousands of lives later, turn it back over to the Taliban, which was right there when we started. There's very vague objectives that we're getting right now in terms of what the official outcome is going to look like. And that, I think, for a lot of veterans who are still in their 20s and 30s coming out of those wars are a little perplexed at what they're seeing right now.
And you're one of them.
I am.
And you know men and women that are involved in this ongoing conflict right now. Is there concern among our U.S. service members? Look, they're going to do what the president tells them to do. But in the back of their minds, especially if they've been in Iraq or Afghanistan, is there concern that this could be an absolute cluster like past wars?
I think there has to be. If you're looking at, this is only very recent memory. This is not going back to World War II or Vietnam or any of these other conflicts. This is 5 years ago, less than 5 years ago, was the evacuation of Afghanistan. So we're looking at current veterans who are still, I mean, as we said, in their 20s, 30s, current service members who have served through those conflicts or enlisted at the time those conflicts were concluding are now possibly being faced with the same type of prolonged engagement that has absolutely just kind of riled the community over the years. And that is not something, I think, we've heard Pete Hegseth say, especially on the heels of 6 service members initially, now 7, coming home in boxes. We've heard Pete Hegseth say that that has only strengthened the American will. But I have to wonder whether the American will pertains to its patience right now, because that is something that I think could wear thin pretty quickly.
No, and just because we can't help but look back at other conflicts. And now this talk of boots on the ground. The president says, I'm not going to say never, but then he's saying we're not close to that. It's conflicting messages. We know that we can't take out an entire regime by air power alone. You've made that very clear. We know that's impossible. And then Iran produces what? You said 10,000 drones per month?
Per month.
So what are your sources telling you about how deep this could go? And in order to really do this right, do we need U.S. boots on the ground?
I think that's where the dilemma begins for veterans, for someone like myself or other veterans of the past conflicts, is what is right? What is doing this right? Because we didn't get to experience a right outcome necessarily. So I don't even know if I can necessarily say that is an achievable outcome. I mean, the regime change, the overthrow or the killing of Khamenei, and now his son is in power and all. I just think there are elements at play that have not been clearly defined enough to dictate whether boots on the ground would be warranted or not. But when we do look at Iraq, for example, I mean, as we've spoken before, the troop surge in Iraq in 2007, they had 150,000 troops on the ground. Even with that number, there was still violence and sectarian violence especially. So the prospect of having Kurds come in, boots on the ground, it doesn't guarantee any form of stability necessarily, especially if you're hardening the resolve of those who are opposing you, which we have so far.
And one more question, because this really fits to your experience and what you've seen in past wars. This girls' school that was struck in Iran, the president says, nope, it's not a U.S. strike. We have sources telling our Martha Raddatz that the U.S. is the culprit here in this strike that killed all these girls. So how many more hardliners did we just create? And are we losing the support of Iranians who have been wanting regime change?
That's the difficult human element of all of these conflicts. And I remember going back to Iraq, General Jim Mattis at the time was always talking about don't create more enemies than you kill. And it's hard to believe or hard to put yourself into the place of a parent who sent their daughter off to school that day, and now that daughter is gone. Now 100 of their classmates are gone. And it's when you factor that in, when you factor Khamenei, the son coming into power right now, and just the fact that he also lost his father, he lost his mother, he lost family in these strikes since the war began. It's hard to state how intense some of that hardline perspective and radicalization can manifest, and quickly so.
J.D. Simpkins, great to have you, editor-in-chief of the Military Times and Defense News. You're doing great reporting. We just appreciate having you with a little different insight for us on the network. Thank you.
That report there from ABC News. And of course, you do hope this war will come to an end. We have Jamaicans out in the Middle East, and of course, those who call the Middle East home, the people who are from that region, of course, they too are being affected by this. So we do hope that this war will come to an end. That's all we have time for in today's edition of Nationwide at 5, the flagship program right here at Nationwide 90 FM. I want to thank our super producer, Dana Davey. Thanks to our technical operator, the man behind the controls, Andrew Glenn Anderson. Don't just said, folks, that's his name, Andrew and Glenn together. That's his full government. Big up yourself, Boogs. Thanks to all the hard-working members of the news and production team. On behalf of all of us, I'm Tyrone Reed, wishing you a pleasant evening.